Hello, my name is Amina Abdullahi. I'm a real estate agent or realtor with Century 21 affiliated here in California, San Diego, and I am excited to share with you the processes involved in buying a home or defining the dream of home ownership in the US. If you're excited about this video as I am, kindly stay on and let's delve deeper. Thank you and see you soon. So, welcome back. Now let's talk all about defining the dream of home ownership. Okay, so I would start off by telling us what at all is, discussing what at all is buying a home ownership. So, everything I'm talking about right here pretty much may be applicable in other countries, but I am basing it off here in the US. Okay, so if you have any questions along the line or anything, please put them down in the chat below and I'll definitely respond to you. However, like I said, let's delve in. All right, so home ownership is the legal right to own a house as a property and enjoy all the bundle of rights that comes with it. Okay, now you may be wondering, what is the bundle of rights? Okay, so here in the US, what we mean by that is, first of all, we have abbreviated it as UPTI. So you know, the first one is U, which is use the property as you wish within the law. Okay, and then also to be able to possess it as your own, and also to transfer ownership through selling, gifting, inheritance, and then also being able to encumber, so being able to borrow against it or use it as security, and then also finally have, be able to enjoy it and not have the disturbance of other people, come on, aggravating and all that. So yeah, so basically those are the bundle of rights. So the use, to possess, to transfer, to encumber, and then enjoy. All right, so you may be wondering, eligibility. Who is eligible? Who could buy a house in the US? Now, buying a house is for everyone. Anyone at all can buy a house in the US. If you're a foreigner, you are only required to have the TIN. Now, the TIN is the taxpayer's identification number, and you need to have that in order to be able to buy, here in the US. Because I know that in California, if you're buying as a foreigner, there's a required withholding tax or tax that you pay for buying as a foreigner. Okay, here in California, I can say of California. All right, and then how do people buy homes? Especially California is expensive, and you're wondering how are people able to afford? Now, there are two main forms of buying a home, and the first one is buying out of cash, buying with cash. Okay, so if you've saved, you have money, you've gotten it somewhere or whatever, maybe you won a lottery or you've been working hard and saving, you can buy cash. Okay, and then also you have the chance of also applying for a mortgage loan, and you can use that to also buy a house. So basically, applying for a mortgage loan is soliciting for a fund to be able to buy the house, which is yours anyways, but would be in the name of the lender because they funded it in the first place, but it's yours. So technically, it's like I'm borrowing this money, and for 30 years, usually it's 30 years. So 30 years, you are going to pay it off. Okay, there are other forms of financing, but those ones are for specific situations. So I wouldn't go into that. Nonetheless, if you have any questions, put it in the chat box and I'll help you with that. Well, also, now let's talk about the benefits of owning a home. Now, you may be wondering, is it even beneficial? Is it even worth it? Considering all the things that may be attached to it. But I do have some points here, and let's see if it resonates with you, and then you can decide. Okay, all right. Now let's begin with the first one. It gives you a part of ownership and a sense of community. Now, what I mean by this is part of ownership, obviously, and then sense of community in the sense that, when you buy, you become part of that community because you own a home in that community. Okay, so community ties. All right. Okay, and you're more welcoming and accepting because people know that, oh well, he owns, he stays here, those kind of things. And so we have the second point being stability, and so at least it gives you some form of stability. You're not moving from one place to the other. This is your home. Okay, all right. And then we have the third point, building equity and creation of wealth through investment. Now people would ask you, what is building equity? Now building equity literally means that, even though, let's say, if you borrow the money from the bank, okay, even though you borrowed it, you are able to live in the house, and then the payments that you're making towards paying off the home, part of it is actually yours. Okay, so the money you tend to save whilst you're living in the house or enjoying the house literally is yours. Okay, so that's the equity you're building. And then in terms of investment and creation of wealth, you there's always the saying that you cannot outsave equity. Okay, so basically it's depicted by the market. Okay, so that's where you get the investment from. So instead of giving the money out, you're actually saving it for your future, and that's the investment. Well, let's move on to the fourth point, which is control over mortgage payments. Now your mortgage payment basically is fixed. So if, let's say, you're paying 2,000 or 3,000 a month, you are guaranteed that payment throughout the 30-year loan, which is like the normal, usually 15 or 30 years, but 30 years seems to be the common one. So so over the 30 years, you are sure that you're paying 2,000. So even if prices of goods and services go up, or people are now paying rent at some high amount and all that, you're still assured of their particular amount that you set from the beginning when you did buy the house. Okay, the thing is, even if you work from home, you are able to deduct taxes from that per square footage. There's a calculation for that. I don't want to delve into that, so let's move on. But you do get some benefits, which is very good. Saves you some bucks. All right, and then the seventh point is less restrictions on occupancy. So nobody tells you that, hey, in this house, in your own house, there can be only 3 people, there can be only 4 people or 5 people or whatsoever. And nobody restricts you on, hey, you can have a dog in there, you can have a pet in there, you can have like a cat. There's nothing like that. This is your home. Okay, all right. So, and then the eighth point, which I've already mentioned, which is part of your bundle of rights, is the ability to borrow against it. So now when we talk about the equity portion, now basically whatever money you have saved over the years, let's say 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, you may not have necessarily taken any part of it, but the money is there, and everybody knows, the bank knows, and everybody knows that it's there. So sometimes when you are short of money, and let's say in terms of tuition fees, or like there's some debt, or you want to buy a car or anything, you are able to take a loan or even get money out of that equity to be able to satisfy that need, okay, at the time. All right, then we have the fifth point being ability to personalize your home. Well, if you look at it, in the house, you can get up today and say that I'm tired of this paint, I'm painting it blue. I'm tired of that, I'm changing it. So you're able to do all that. But when you do rent, you are unable to do that because it is not your house. Okay, all right. And then we have the sixth point being tax benefits. So you're able to waive off some expenses and all that. You tend to get tax benefits. It used to be that you get the interest that you pay on the loan, you get it back at the end of the year when you do file for your taxes. It's not so applicable in California at the moment. However, it used to be, and it's kind of relevant still there in some states, which I can't really state. Okay, all right, but it is there, and even in California, you tend to get certain benefits in terms of your income tax. Because you have a house, you own a house, there are some deductions done on there. Now let's move on to the downside. Well, for every good thing, there is a downside. So let's talk about the downside of owning a home. One of them is comparatively, it is expensive, okay? Because there are some costs that come with it when you have when you've gone for the loan. Obviously, you're going to pay interest on the money you have borrowed, so that's extra money that you're paying. And then also you have other payments like property taxes, you have home insurance that you have to pay for. And so those are some of the things that, if you compare, but this is something that you do it anyways if it's your home. All right. And then secondly, we have the additional costs like maintenance. When you're renting, you easily call your the renter. Oh, and so the stove broke down, this broke down, there's a leakage, there's this, and I want it fixed, and I want it fixed now. But when it's your home, you do all those fixing. You don't call anybody. You go to the homeowner, who happens to be you, and so you fix those ones. Okay. All right. So the other thing is the HOA fees. HOA is applicable in certain areas, and then there are some mellows, and you may be wondering what is HOA fees. So HOA fees are like homeowners association for all the homes that happen to be in that particular community, and so therefore they contribute an amount that kind of takes care of certain things like common grounds, the roof, the trash, and all those things. So you tend to pay a sort of like in Ghana they say dues. You pay those dues to be able to take care of those expenses, And then we do have mellows, and mellows is an additional payment that you make on top of your property taxes that happens to take care of things in your vicinity, your community. So like schools, like hospitals, or anything that may be there for the development of the community or the sustainability of the community. So that is it. And then we have the other thing that is less flexibility in relocating. Yep. If you have a situation with a neighbor who happens to like partying every time, because your home is fixed, it's your home. I mean, you may be disturbed about it, but because it's your home, you kind of turn a blind eye to it a little bit or accommodate it. But even with that, the good thing is if you have an HOA, this is an issue that can be addressed easily. But at the same time, these are some of the things that do come. And if you tend to move, or let's say if you were posted to a different branch at work or anything, you cannot necessarily move your home around or like kind of move from your home to another place. You tend to second think that, so that's the less flexibility in, relocating. All right. And then we have the fourth point, which happens to be home prices may fall. All right. So this is a likelihood, okay? But for a very long time now, as I may recall, from 2008, the crash then, and then home prices went down. It has never gone down again. Okay, so there is a probability, but it all depends on so many factors that have to happen, like extreme factors to happen for it to go towards that direction. So yeah. And so one may ask, with all the very good benefits of owning a home in the US and all the less, issues or the downsides to owning a home, why don't people buy a house? Okay, why wouldn't they buy a home but would want to rent? Okay, now to talk of that, sometimes it's a lifestyle choice. Okay, some people may not necessarily be living in a particular place for a long time for them to consider buying a home. Some too don't just like the commitment of you taking care of every other thing, and there are so many things that could be a reason to it. However, there are some fears, okay? Apart from dealing with social issues, there are some issues that kind of tend to keep people, a little arm's length away from buying a home and all that. And I'm going to address some of those issues now. Now, one of them is, what if I'm not eligible to buy? Now, you may be thinking, there are people who think that they can't buy a house in the US because they don't feel that they are eligible. Okay, but for everything you need to take the first step. If you're desiring, where there's a will, there's a way. Okay, so you may want to inquire. Like I mentioned, anybody can buy a house in the US, so long as you have the right things going on and for the right purposes. Like I mentioned, even foreigners can buy a home in the US. So you just have to research. Okay, and so if you think you have issues surrounding that and you may want more clarification, go ahead and send me a message down below and I'll be happy to answer them. Okay. All right. So the other reason is that people are skeptical. What if I buy it at this price and then it falls the next day or it falls the other thing? Like I previously explained, it is a probability, but it doesn't happen that often and doesn't happen in a very long time unless certain factors, extreme factors, push it to that angle. Okay. And also, I remember one of my clients, when he was buying his home, he was asking me, Amina, I love this house and I really want us to buy a house now, but I'm wondering, do you think that home prices are going to come down? Do you think the market is going to crash? And then I said, well, I can't tell you that for sure because I know that experts are saying, some say yes, it's going to crash, some say no, it's not going to crash. And one thing I know for sure is that if things don't go in the way people predict it to be, they'll come back to explain to you why it didn't go that way. But what I told him personally was that you have to look at your life. Who do you want to be the leading factor? If you think that you really want to buy a house, nobody knows what will happen in the next 2 or 3 days or even the next minute. So you defined your life. If you want to buy a house, you go ahead and buy it. And if it does crash, unfortunately, if it doesn't, you make a profit. So it's also another risk to take, but it's a good risk to take. All right, let's move on. And then I do have the other section where I talk about what would happen if I'm no longer able to pay my mortgage. Now, that's a good question. If it so happens that you're buying the house, but then if you're, let's say, paying monthly and you're very faithful, in paying your mortgage and everything, and then for unforeseen reasons, life happens and you're unable to pay, what do you do? First of all, communication is very key. First of all, you need to communicate with your lender to let them know that, oh, I am short and I'm kind of like in a difficult place right now. Can you postpone my payment for another 2 or 3 months? Okay, so this is a communication you need to have with your lender. And most usually they do offer, they do give you, but you would have to pay the charges that come with the late fees. Okay, but it's a still good bet for you to go with. If that is not the case and you think this is going to be for a long time, I think it's a good time to really sell the home. Now, you won't be selling at a loss because most times the home prices go up. So you sell it, you pay off the bank whatever they're entitled to, and then you take your profit and then you move on. But there are so many things that can be done within that period. All you need to do is talk to a very reliable talk to your attorney, and then talk to a real estate agent like myself, and we can figure that thing out. So don't let it be a fear. All right. So again, we have the fourth point. What if the government decides to seize my house? That is a fear, right? That is something that usually happens in where from. Yeah. I mean, things can happen and like they seize this, they seize that. But all these things, the system works. So you are able to get ahead of it. So the government in the first place will not seize your house for no reason, no tangible reason. And this can always be fought on. But I have never heard of anybody being like, the government just comes like, I seize that. There's always a compensation for you. And sometimes it's even good for you. So don't let that be a fear. But if you want to know more, again, send me that message. All right. And then what if there's a divorce? Now this is for my country people. My country people, they don't want a situation where I buy my house. My America say my wife is entitled to my properties and stuff. So it's like a fear. I'm like, I'm not going to do all those payments and then one woman would just come and say that I know my rights. I'm in the US. I know my rights. I'm just going to snatch it off or anything. But yeah, this was a question a friend of mine asked, and I was like, typically the African men, the reason why they don't want to buy the house is because they don't want to come and split anything with their. But I thought that was funny, and well, he kind of has a valid point. But usually, what happens is, again, the attorneys come together and see what's the best way to move forward with that, and there are always very good ways to resolve that issue. So at the moment, don't let it be a problem. Okay, all right. Okay, and then there's a set point where what if the bank decides to repossess the house? Now, the bank would not decide to repossess the house unless you default on your payment. Like I mentioned, you need to communicate with them. If you know you're going to skip a month or two, communicate with them and let them know that you need, those breaks within that period, and they will definitely grant it. Communication is key. All right, and then we have the seventh point. Will the bank charge me a prepayment penalty? Now, you'll be wondering what is prepayment penalty. So usually you may have gone for the loan, but then you hit, so when you hit like a jackpot, you have some money in and all that, you want to sort that, you want to pay it off and all that. Well, first of all, when you're signing the loan document, make sure you find out from the lender, is there any prepayment penalty? Now, I know for sure that most banks do not charge any, prepayment penalty or anything. If anything, for 30 years and you bring me my money, hooray! But you need to double check that with your lender, okay? And so it's not really an issue. So yeah, so those are the 7 fears that I was able to jot down. But if you have any other fear, write it down there and I'll answer you accordingly. Now, what would be my recommendation? First of all, I'll say that define your goal for wanting to buy a house. Your why for wanting to buy the house will hold dear when the challenges do come in. So you want to really be clear in your mind that you want to buy a house, because every good step comes with some challenges. Okay, maybe financial, and maybe time consuming, and maybe the paperwork and all that. But if it's a good cause, it's worth pursuing, and this is one of those good causes that you want to. And even if you don't want to do it for yourself, do it for your kids, because if you look at the trend, the home prices have increased drastically. And if you're not going to buy it for yourself, at least buy it and secure for your children's future, so that when they get there, they don't have to buy extremely expensive homes. Okay, all right. And then my second point is make inquiries and ask all the questions to satisfy your curiosity. Do not look, we work for you. We are your realtors, we are your real estate agents. We are supposed to represent you. We are also supposed to make sure that we are on this journey together. So, and it says, in all your gettings, get understanding. So ask all the questions you want to ask, both on the lending side, both on the agency side. Get all the answers you can get, so that when you do begin, you're beginning from a place of understanding. Okay, all right. And then lastly, I have, if you can afford buying a house now, do not wait for a perfect time, because nobody knows. COVID hit the last time and nobody knew COVID was coming. So, and it changed the home prices like, okay. So if you are thinking of buying and you can afford to buy, don't wait for a perfect time. Go ahead and then do so. And there's so many opportunities that come along. All you have to do is take the first step. And the first step in getting the first home will open you up to the numerous, opportunities that are in real estate. Okay. So I always advise my clients that take the first step. And some have been very thankful. They're like, I didn't know this. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I was like, yes. Once you get in there, your mindset changes and your conversation changes. And so you tend to get answers for so many questions that have been in your mind. And even when you're discussing with other homeowners, they're going to give you more ideas that you didn't have before. So it's always important to do that. Now, in conclusion, I like to say this video is to help anyone thinking of owning a home in the US for all the right reasons. and is seeking for the knowledge to do so, whether now or in the future. Now, my name again is Amina Abdullahi. I am a real estate agent and realtor with Century 21 affiliated. My office is located in Eastlake, Chula Vista. I am based here in San Diego, California, and my number is 347-912-9844. 347-912-9844. I will be more than happy to take you on that journey. And again, your referrals are most, I really appreciate your referrals. So I can't wait to see you through that journey of home ownership, and I can't wait to give you your keys. If you wait on these series, what I intend to do is also talk about how to start the entire process. So this is the first of the many to follow, and we're going to do house buying process 101. All right. Thank you very much for staying tuned, and I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions, please put them down below, and also subscribe to this channel, Amina's Real Estate channel, okay, where we talk about anything about real estate, and I'm here to share my knowledge with you and to share it with the world. So thank you very much for staying tuned. You have a lovely and wonderful time, and I wish you all the best, and congratulations to all the military people that got promoted during this exams that he just took. All right, congratulations, and more wins for us all. So stay tuned for all the other videos. Thank you very much, and I'm out.